We are creatures of connection. Throughout human history, our survival and our stories have been woven together family-community partnership. We have long believed that to be complete, one must find their other half. Yet, across the silent landscapes of our modern world, a new story is unfolding. A quiet exodus is taking place, led not by prophets or kings but by ordinary men. They are turning away from the path of partnership. They are choosing to walk alone. This is not a retreat born of failure, but a conscious decision, a reevaluation of life itself. What are they seeking in this solitude? What truths have they discovered that the rest of us have yet to see? This growing phenomenon challenges our most fundamental assumptions about happiness and fulfillment. We are witnessing a profound shift in the human experience, particularly the male experience. For generations, a man's life was measured by his ability to provide for a family, to build a home, to be a husband, and to be a father. These were the pillars of a successful life. But what happens when those pillars begin to crumble? What happens when the very definition of success is called into question? They are looking at the landscape of modern relationships and are making a different choice. This is the surprising story of men and the new age of solitude. The story of this quiet exodus begins with cold, hard facts. The numbers paint a clear and startling picture of a world in transition. According to recent data from the Pew Research Center, the share of unpartnered adults in the United States has been steadily rising. Today, a significant percentage of men are not married, not cohabiting, not in a committed romantic relationship. This is not a fleeting phase of youth. The trend holds true across various age groups, indicating a sustained societal shift rather than a simple delay in settling down. These men are not just single. They are living in a state of chosen non-partnership, rewriting the script of adult life. Furthermore, the data on living arrangements tells a similar tale. The number of men living alone has surged over the past half-century. Once a rarity, the single-person household is now a common feature of our social landscape. This trend is not isolated to one country or culture. We see similar patterns emerging across the developed world, Europe, East Asia. In nations with vastly different social norms, a growing number of men are opting out of the traditional relationship model. This global consistency suggests that the forces at play are not merely local or cultural quirks. They are universal pressures and new possibilities created by our modern, interconnected world. The numbers do not lie. To understand why men are walking away, we must first look at what they are walking away from. The institution of marriage long-term partnership, once a bedrock of society, now rests on shifting sands. Divorce rates, while having stabilized from their peak, remain stubbornly high. Nearly half of all marriages still end in dissolution. For a man considering a lifelong commitment, these are not encouraging odds. He has likely witnessed the emotional and financial devastation of divorce firsthand through his parents, his friends, or his own past experiences. The promise of forever now echoes with the possibility of a painful and costly end. Beyond the specter of divorce, the very nature of communication within relationships has become a minefield. The modern world, digital distractions, fast-paced demands has made genuine connection more difficult to achieve. Expectations have also shifted dramatically. Men and women often come to the table with different rule books for communication, leading to chronic misunderstandings and emotional disconnect. Can start to sound like peace. The decision to remain single is not made in a vacuum. It is profoundly influenced by the immense pressures of modern society. Today's man is bombarded with conflicting messages about who he should be. On one hand, traditional masculinity champions stoicism, strength, financial success. He is taught to be a rock, a provider, an unshakable force. This archetype leaves little room for vulnerability or the emotional labor often required to sustain a modern, equitable partnership. The pressure to live up to this stoic ideal can make the emotional demands of a relationship feel like a direct threat to his identity. On the other hand, a new set of expectations has emerged. Society now calls for men to be emotionally intelligent, communicative, deeply involved partners and parents. These are positive and healthy developments, but for men raised on a different code, the transition can be jarring. They may lack the emotional tools and role models to navigate this new terrain successfully. The fear of getting it wrong, of being seen as emotionally inept or worse, toxic, can be paralyzing. For some, it feels safer to simply opt out of the romantic arena altogether than to risk failure in a game with constantly changing rules. Furthermore, the legal and social systems can often appear biased against men, particularly in the context of divorce and family court. It can lead a man to believe that his best chance at peace and self-preservation lies in solitude. The choice is less about avoiding women and more about avoiding a perceived no-win scenario. Perhaps the most powerful magnet pulling men toward solitude is the profound allure of personal freedom. In a world defined by schedules, obligations, and the demands of others, the ability to be the sole author of your own life is, well, an intoxicating prospect. For a single man, his time is his own. He can wake up on a Saturday morning and decide to climb a mountain, read a book for 8 hours straight, or simply do nothing at all without needing to negotiate or compromise. This is not selfishness, it is sovereignty. It is the freedom to pursue one's own interests and passions without filter or apology. This freedom extends far beyond daily routines. It encompasses major life decisions: change careers, move to a new city, take a year off to travel the world. He is not anchored by the needs of a partner or the responsibilities of a shared life. His financial resources are entirely his to allocate. Invest in a passion project. Save aggressively for an early retirement. Spend money on experiences that bring him joy without the need for joint financial planning or spousal approval. This level of autonomy, honestly, is a powerful currency in the modern world. The emotional freedom of solitude is just as compelling. It can be profound liberty and self-discovery. In our hyper-competitive modern economy, the pursuit of a career has become more than just a means to a paycheck. For many, it is a primary source of identity, purpose, self-worth. Men, in particular, are often socialized to measure their value by their professional achievements. This intense focus on work and ambition can leave little room for the time and emotional investment that a healthy relationship requires. The single man can dedicate his evenings and weekends to his craft, to building a business, to climbing the corporate ladder without feeling guilty for neglecting a partner. His ambition can be his primary relationship. The modern workplace is demanding long hours. High-stress projects, expectation of constant availability are the new normal in many fields. For a man trying to build a future, a relationship can feel like a second full-time job. It comes with its own set of demands, conflicts, emotional labor. Many men look at this equation and make a pragmatic choice. They decide to focus their finite energy on one major life project at a time. In their 20s and 30s, that project is often their career. A relationship is seen as a distraction, a potential impediment to the focus required to achieve their professional goals. In recent years, our society has begun to have a long overdue conversation about mental health. For men, this conversation is particularly revolutionary. Generations of men were taught to suppress their feelings, to man up, to suffer in silence. The consequences of this stoicism have been devastating. Now, as awareness grows, many men are beginning to prioritize their own mental and emotional well-being above all else. For a significant number, this journey of self-care leads them directly to the sanctuary of solitude. A life lived alone can provide the peace and stability necessary to heal and to manage one's inner world. Relationships, even healthy ones, are inherently unpredictable and often emotionally turbulent. They involve conflict, vulnerability, the potential for profound heartbreak. For someone who is struggling with anxiety, depression, the lingering effects of past trauma, the emotional volatility of a relationship can be overwhelming. It can feel like a constant threat to their fragile sense of peace. Solitude, in contrast, offers a controlled environment. It is a space where a man can regulate his own emotional state. To truly understand this phenomenon, we must look beyond the statistics and theories. We must see the faces of the men who are living this truth. Consider the story of a man in his 40s, a software developer who, after a tumultuous divorce, chose not to re-enter the dating world. Instead, he poured his energy into his passions. He built a workshop in his garage where he crafts beautiful custom furniture. His weekends are spent in a state of creative flow, covered in sawdust, bringing his visions to life. His life is not empty. It is full of purpose, quiet satisfaction, and the deep joy of creation. He has friends, but his primary partner is his craft. Or think of the young man in his late 20s, an adventurer who lives a minimalist life out of a converted van. He works remotely as a graphic designer, which allows him to chase good weather and great hiking trails across the country. He wakes up each morning to a new vista, a new mountain to climb, a new river to explore. His relationships are transient, brief, meaningful connections with fellow travelers. But his commitment is to the journey itself. He is not running from anything. He is running toward a life of experience, freedom, and a deep connection with the natural world. His contentment is found not in a person, but in the ever-changing landscape of his own life. And for a growing number of men, that path is one they choose to walk alone. We have journeyed through the numbers, the pressures, and the private motivations that are leading more men to choose a life of solitude. What we have found is not a simple story of bitterness or failure, but a complex tapestry woven from threads of freedom, ambition, self-preservation, and a quiet reevaluation of what makes a life worth living. This is not an anti-relationship movement. It is a pro-self movement. It is a silent but powerful statement that a man's worth and happiness are not contingent on his relationship status. It is the dawning of a different day for masculinity. The world has changed. The old maps of life which guided generations of men toward the singular destination of marriage and family no longer reflect the territory. The landscape of romance is fraught with new challenges, communication breakdowns, shifting roles, and the ever-present shadow of divorce. In response, many men are choosing to become their own cartographers, drawing new maps that lead to different destinations, mastery in a career, the freedom of the open road, the peace of a well-tended inner world, or the joy of a creative passion. They are seeking a different kind of treasure. This quiet exodus has profound implications for our future. In the end, this is a story of adaptation and evolution. The growing number of men choosing solitude is not the end of connection, but perhaps the beginning of a more honest and intentional form of it. For some, that relationship is so fulfilling, so complete, that it is all they need. And in their quiet contentment, they offer the world a profound and surprising truth. A life lived alone can still be a life filled with love.